Thanks, Kavya. Sandip, ESG is going to be one of the dominant themes of the decade, along with technology. How is IBM going about implementing its ESG agenda?
So look, we have been very committed to this from a long time. We published our first corporate policy on environment in 1971. That was much before the Paris Accord, and we are very proud of this legacy. We have recently published our intention to get to net zero by 2030, and we actually see this not just as a compliance requirement. I think many people see it that way. But this is something that is core to our business purpose and mission. So our mission actually is to become a sustainable enterprise and also to help clients accelerate their net zero and sustainable journeys.
Sure. A lot of ESG, a lot of CEOs, if you see, they talk about ESG and think of it as a cost. How compelling is the business case for ESG?
So look, I think this is an initiative that everyone needs to think about, because it isn't a cost. It is actually the way we would need the world to be and the way we would want this world to be on a go forward basis. So this is why everyone, I think, needs to embrace this, not just, as I said, as a compliance requirement, but something that is important for the good of the world and the good of our future generations.
Sure. You must be talking to a lot of Indian CEOs. Do you see the ESG agenda on their things to do list?
I think a lot of people are talking about it. I think, look, I'll give you sort of my perspective, right? While I think there is interest and momentum, there is a lot more that needs to be done. The world as an entity, right, is not on track to meet net zero by 2050. And it is important that we accelerate now. It has, in some instances, become fashionable for companies to say that they are following the UN SDGs. But it's important to start with a clear view of what sustainability really means for an enterprise, how it aligns with its values, and include it as a part of its core strategic missions. All SDGs may not be relevant for all the companies.
Yeah.
It's very important, I think, for this reason, that we take an industry lens and see what's really relevant. What is also needed is broader and genuine stakeholder engagement while defining these goals. And this will create the buy-in. I think what this also means is that we really need to work as an ecosystem to make these things live. And I'll just give you a very simple example. And this will give you a sense for how clients who really believe in it are thinking about it. So we actually partnered with Shell to build a unique B2B digital marketplace for sustainable mining. The platform, it's called Oren, and it brings together mining companies with various sustainability solution providers, those that can help reduce water wastage, manage emissions, manage pollution, electrify mining equipment, etc. So these are the kinds of ecosystem related initiatives that companies need to sort of come together and really embrace and start to move forward.
You also see ESG as an opportunity in IBM? Because I'm sure a lot of it has to do with technology.
No, we absolutely. We clearly see it as an opportunity. We see it, as I told you, this is actually core to our business mission and purpose, right? So it comes from that deep-seated focus on it being a core purpose and mission. But we've also launched a new practice called Green to Grow. And the aim is to help our clients accelerate their journey to sustainability and meet both their performance and ESG goals together. As I told, and I think as you mentioned, it doesn't have to be one or the other. And this is by leveraging digital, artificial intelligence, and hybrid cloud. This practice that we have launched, it helps, it's organized around 5 broad themes, right? One is it helps clients define their sustainability strategy, including new business models and redefining how they engage with their stakeholders and the broader ecosystem. Second, it helps our clients with their ESG reporting and climate risk assessments. Third, it helps to manage carbon emissions and transition to cleaner sources of energy. How do you get to that? Fourth, it helps them manage their infrastructure, assets, and operations in a more efficient manner with a lot less energy usage. And fifth, it helps clients make their supply chains a lot more sustainable.
Sure. In India, a lot of companies have started this whole movement towards ESG. What should be the few things they should consider before starting starting the journey from compliance to actually executing it?
Yeah, I mean, I would sort of have them think about three key points, right? One, this is not a zero-sum game. In fact, long-term performance will be impacted if sustainability is not made core of the business mission. So they really need to factor in how is it fit within their core business mission and how is it relevant within their industry. I think that is really important to think about, because this is where you link economic performance to what sustainability can do for you. Second, there is a huge opportunity with literally trillions of dollars of investment at stake. And we should not look at it from a pure compliance view alone, but take advantage of this to revamp our operations and reinvent business models. What got us here will not get us to where we need to go from a sustainability standpoint. So really revamping operations, rethinking how you drive more automation, how you reinvent business models and take market leadership, that is really important. So thinking transformation through technology to achieve sustainability objectives. And third, you've got to accept that this is an ecosystem play. No one company can work this on their own. It needs businesses within and across industries to collaborate with each other, with the government and multilateral institutions. I'll give you one more quick example just to highlight this, right? We part, and this is something which we did very early on, is we did some work with Walmart to build a transparent supply chain solution called Food Trust that helps food fresh, safe, sustainable. It helps to keep food fresh, safe, and sustainable. And it's built on blockchain technology. And the platform actually connects various players across the food supply chain and provides end-to-end traceability of products. So these are the kinds of ecosystem partnerships that actually have to come together to make this a reality.
Sure. In terms of how IBM manages its ecosystem and how IBM tracks its sustainability, so how does it work? The global, you have a team here which sits, which drives these things, or it's the global guys which drive initiatives and then they track it? How does it work within?
As I told you, this is actually an enterprise objective. So we do have sort of a global strategy around how we were moving towards our intention to get to net zero by 2030. And as a part of that, this then cascades down to each of our markets through relevant initiatives that are, critical in those specific markets. So that's how the execution actually happens, to make sure that we as a global enterprise are picking relevant initiatives that are relevant in each market, so that collectively we are working towards our end objective.
Sure. In terms of, if you see, COVID-19 has been a turning point. I was reading some IBM reports that it has been a turning point for sustainability and ESG initiatives. Do you think that now we are on that journey where organizations will see it as one of the 2-3 things which you have to do now?
Look, I mean, I see that a lot of organizations are seriously talking about it. They understand that this is really important. And I think one of the things that, COVID-19 told us is that we really do need to take some of these things a lot more seriously. We really need to think about sustainability. We have to think about continuity. All of these things have become very relevant. But I think this is where, let's link it back to risk management. As you know, the World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report 2020, across the top 5 business risks, one was environmental challenges, including extreme weather and climate action failure, right? So this is where I think we need to, and this is where I think companies are thinking about it. As a matter of fact, I sit on, many industry bodies and others, And one of the things that has started to surface as a very serious discussion topic is what are we doing, or what are each of us doing about sustainability, but also in the areas or markets where we are operating, either states or locations where we are operating. How are those locations supporting the sustainability initiatives? Because we really need solutions to help us identify, measure, and manage these risks. At the heart of any risk management solution, right, is the ability to get the right data, data that is relevant, data that is trusted, analyze it, and draw meaningful and actionable insights. Take climate risk, for example, right? So we are working with our clients to help them understand, monitor, and manage risks associated with climate change. This requires not only digital technologies like Internet of Things and edge computing, but also advanced artificial intelligence algorithms to predict weather and microclimate patterns. It also requires a lot of innovation, such as the work that we are doing, for example, with a fertilizer company called Yara, to build a digital farming platform to help farmers improve crop yields and use less water and fertilizer. Closer to home, we are doing some work with precision agriculture, very similar technologies with different states and the Ministry of Agriculture to help farmers get a lot more focused on how they can improve crop yields by using less water and fertilizer. So these are the kinds of things which I think companies are becoming very alert to and are starting to think about how do they pivot to make some of these investments, but also do this in a way that is, really drives the sustainability for themselves as well as the ecosystems in which they are operating.
You worked with a lot of global companies while being with IBM. And I see that you have seen a lot of user cases also. In India, we don't have that many user cases. So what are the companies who are at the cutting edge of ESG technology, cutting edge ESG practices? What are they doing right? If you can tell us 4 or 5 things which can be a takeaway for Indian CEOs.
So again, I'll go back to what I said a little bit earlier. Sure. This is not a zero-sum game. So I think what they are thinking about is how they improve their long-term performance and impact their long-term performance through making sustainability a core part of the business mission. Second, given the trillions of dollars of investment that are at stake, they don't look at it purely as a compliance-only view, but take advantage of this to really get a lot more efficient around their operations and also getting into new business models. And I'll give you a couple of examples in just a second. And third, as I said again, think about this as an ecosystem play. If you think about it as an ecosystem play, you get a lot more value out of the investments you're making in this space, not only with other business partners or business enterprises, but also with the government in that way. So I'll give you 2 other very quick examples, right?
Please.
One is where we are partnering with electrical utilities, such as, and I'll give you one very specific example, Western Power in Australia, to leverage artificial intelligence, where they are using it to better forecast electricity demand and balance the electricity grid as they shift to more renewable energy sources. So this is again, at a utility level, but they are doing it in conjunction with the communities in which they are operating and working through. Another one I'll give you, this is with actually an NGO. So we have collaborated with the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. It's called, I think it goes by AEPW. It's an NGO to develop a global data platform to track plastic waste and recovery. It has over, this NGO has over 80 plus members, which includes large global companies, NGOs, industry associations. And the platform is built on the IBM cloud. It has over 420 different data sets and APIs to consume and expose this data to really track how this is happening so that the member companies and others can all benefit from really tracking this and achieving their sustainability goals. So this is, again, I go back to the 3 key messages, right? Don't think about it as a zero-sum game. It needs to be core to the business if you want to do it right. Second, you use it as a way to revamp your operations and reinvent business models. That if you only look at it as compliance, you probably are leaving a lot on the table, and you won't do it in a sustainable manner. And third, you've got to think about it as an ecosystem play, because what you can do with your ecosystem partners or in conjunction with your ecosystem partners, that can get you a whole lot of benefit and multiples of benefit, as opposed to just trying to solve a compliance issue on your own.
I think after listening to you and discuss the various examples, one of the key things going forward is going to be how we learn from each other. You think that industries need to learn from each other in other sectors and adopt best practices and share best practices? Because this is something which is at a nascent stage, which is growing fast, but it's still at a little lower level in terms of maturity.
Yeah, I'll start off by just saying I'll give you a statement which I typically use. We are in a world that is seeing change all around us, and the pace of change is going on. Particularly what we saw with the pandemic, with things the way they changed and forced us to change. That acceleration of transformation is not stopping. Right? So I always say that change will always be endemic, if not strategic. And therefore, learning becomes fundamental if you want to keep pace with change, right? And so this is where your point about should companies learn from each other? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, this whole notion that you think about this as an ecosystem play, that itself gets you to that learning model, because that is how you're learning from each other. You're learning from what others are doing. And as you yourself said, this is still at its nascent stage. There are several companies that are still thinking about it as more of a compliance issue. But as they see others operate in this ecosystem model, how they are also using it not just to solve compliance, but reinvent themselves, reinvent their business models. Those learnings, I think, are going to be invaluable for others who have not started this journey. So I think it is fundamental that people learn from this, learn from the great examples of things which people are already doing, and then, as I said, make it very relevant to your business and the ecosystem in which you are operating.
Sandip, help me understand. COVID-19 was a black swan event, and a lot of plans and business continuity plans went out of the window. In such times when it's all about survival, do you think that companies have also maintained the ESG agenda while looking at survival, or it's on a back burner? What are you noticing in your client set or generally in the industry?
What I will say is you can't generalize a statement like that, because
Sure.
every organization, every industry is very different. I think different industries have had to deal with the pandemic and the impact of pandemic in a fundamentally different way. Many industries have done that. But I think what I have seen, and some of these examples that I gave you, some of these are very recent pieces of work that we have been doing over the last 2 years. So companies, I think, are realizing that if we do it right, this could be a way for us to reinvent ourselves and do things in a much more efficient manner with a lot more automation and others, which will actually prepare us for the future. I always say that, look, after everything is said and done with the pandemic, right? It's not going to be about, whether we survive. We will survive. The question is, how did we survive? And what does it teach us to be ready for the next event, if and when it happens, right? And that is what I think we need to think about. And that's why I actually have found a lot of the leading edge companies, they haven't stopped. Yeah. They haven't stopped. They are thinking about it. But I think this has given people a greater awareness, at least some of the clients that we are working with who are accelerating this, that this is a way to reinvent their business models. This is a way for them to rethink how they can, revamp their operations, which is critical, I think, which is going to be critical as we move into the new era.
Sure. I think we're running out of time. Last question. Are customers ready to pay the sustainability premium?
Well, look, I mean, I don't know if I would, I don't even know what we would call a sustainability premium, right? When you think about sustainability, first of all, it's a compliance imperative. But notwithstanding the compliance imperative, if you really think about it as being core to your business, right, it becomes an essential, relevant investment that you're making in your business that actually should get you better returns and more efficiencies in how you approach the work. So if for clients who are approaching it that way, yes, they actually see value in that, making those investments, because some of those investments are not just investments themselves, but in creating an ecosystem of other companies that are doing it with you for the betterment of the industry as a whole. I mean, I always say that, when you are actually eliminating risk as a industry or as a collection of companies, you are actually bringing down the overall impact or emphasis of risk in the world. That itself, is a good return on investment in my mind.
Thank you so much, Sandip. I think the key message is ESG is a way to reinvent your business.
Absolutely. And don't think about it as a zero-sum game.
Yeah. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for sparing time out of your busy schedule.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks so much.